Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Joseph Mbele. I'm a Tanzanian. I teach at St. Olaf College in Northfield, Minnesota. I've been here since 1991, and before that, I taught at the University of Dar es Salaam. Today, I would like to talk about something called diversity fatigue. Diversity fatigue. It's a phrase you hear, again and again here in the United States, and I'll talk about that today. First, a little bit of background. As part of the politics of the United States and part of the dynamics of social movements and relationships, they have been trying to deal with racial issues, racial discrimination, and then they're trying to deal with the issues of fairness at the workplace, fairness in the community as such, trying to address problems such as biases based on things like race, gender, religion. And so the question has been, how do institutions, how do organizations deal with this? So there's been a tradition of having someone responsible for helping institutions and organizations and companies to work through these problems and try to help the organizations, the companies, the institutions to do the right thing, to bring about equality, fairness to all the groups that might otherwise be facing discrimination and so on and so on. So these people, these individuals, are called diversity officers. Their work is to help institutions think about, plan for, and implement programs, procedures, and practices that help to bring about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's how they call it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. So these individuals, they get assigned, and there are a lot of expectations placed on them. And it seems increasingly they're feeling overwhelmed. And so the concept of diversity fatigue has set in. These individuals are talking about a lot of work they have to do, a lot of expectations, and they complain oftentimes about working alone and not being fully supported by the leadership of the institutions or organizations. And they talk specifically about not having enough funding for them to do the programs they would like to do. So that has been the trend. Diversity officers talking about being exhausted, frustrated by lack of support, too much work, and so on and so on. I have been thinking about this, and I wanted to offer my observations, which are probably not going to go down well with some people. I do believe that the goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion are very noble, and if somebody really believes in them, somebody is really passionate about helping to bring diversity, equity, and inclusion, into existence. They should be able to carry on their work regardless of circumstances. They should be able to be strong, adaptable, flexible, and above all, creative. And the idea of giving up is a bit troubling in my view. I get the feeling that the people involved got into these positions the way they would get into any other jobs. And honestly, this should not be a job. Building relations between human beings should not be categorized as a job, something you do, the way you would do jobs. I have another video, and I encourage you to watch it. I'm talking about myself and my role as a teacher. And the video is titled, Teaching is Not a Job. I'm talking about how passionate I was from when I was growing up as a boy in my village, how passionate I was about being a teacher. It was the only thing I wanted to do in my life. I'm grateful I became a teacher, and every day for me is like a dream come true. There are many challenges in the teaching profession, many challenges. There are good days and bad days, but that has never made me waver in my commitment, in my passion. So I'm thinking, if a diversity officer is there, as a result of that passionate commitment to the role of diversity officer, and they are driven by the firm belief that we need to create equity and inclusion, to bring people together and to promote social justice and things like that. I don't think the question of fatigue would come in at all. I don't think so. Think of people who have devoted their lives under any circumstances in pursuit of the goals they believed in. Think of people like Nelson Mandela of South Africa. Think of Mother Teresa. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. There were so many obstacles, absolutely, so many challenges, incredible difficulties, but they never talked about fatigue. They never talked about fatigue. And when diversity officers talk about administration not providing funding, for example, I think they're missing the point. Programs of bringing about awareness of issues of social justice and things like that, I don't think money has to be the key. There have to be ways, there are ways to operate with minimal budgets, and I think there's a problem of thinking that money is the answer to problems. It's not always the answer. I think the desire to achieve the changes will drive people to be creative, and with or without money, you can accomplish certain goals, and you need to be adaptable. You need to be creative and find out, what works under what circumstances. It's never always about money. I like to talk to audiences, for example, about the same kinds of issues, and my focus is cultural differences. I never think in terms of money. Getting people together and making presentations which are, non-confrontational, presentations which are interesting, promoting dialogue, respectful dialogue. It is possible because we have long-term goals here. We can't bring about diversity, equity, and inclusion in one day or 1 year, but we go slowly. Little changes matter and they are possible. I think one of the problems is diversity officers tend to be confrontational. They tend to make certain sections of the institutions or the organizations feel guilty. They tend to separate their constituents into those who are guilty and those who are innocent. And I don't think there are those kinds of dichotomies, really. We are all in need of looking into ourselves and seeing everybody else as a fellow human being and trying to find ways to connect on a human level. I have gone to places where people were, facing challenges, and conventionally, I might have gone there to talk about human rights and legal issues and things like that. And so finding victims and culprits and threatening the culprits. My approach has always been to look at people as fallible, look at everybody as capable of being good. Yes, everybody is capable of being good, capable of being bad, and we ourselves, are in the same boat. We might be victims today, but we could be perpetrators tomorrow, or we might be perpetrators in some other ways. So diversity officers, in institutions, they talk about, these are the oppressed groups, these are the groups that are victimized, and then they talk about allies. If it's a question of race, in a place like the USA, there are the races that are, marginalized or oppressed or victimized, and then you have the race, and in this case, oftentimes, or all the time, it has been the white race. It's like they are the enemy. And once you cast people in this light, there could be reluctance to participate, to be involved. There could be the tendency, very naturally, to avoid being part of these, diversity programs and so on, if you are made to feel, as the suspect or the guilty party all the time. And the whole language of the diversity programs, creates this type of problems. For example, the idea of victims on this side and, allies on the other side, that, the oppressed races, they should work together and they should be able to accommodate allies. The language itself suggests confrontations. You talk about allies when you are fighting, and I don't think it should be confrontational. These programs should never be confrontational. These programs should seek to connect, to embrace, everybody, and then work with them. Knowing that they can be reached they can be touched, and it doesn't have to be confrontational. So, in trying to make the conversations interesting and assuring, and I like to make them very light-hearted. I like to make my presentations interesting but enlightening. So I will probably create some other videos to be a bit more specific, to address, the kinds of things I've tried to do. And so for today, I'm making this general statement, and I look forward to pursuing this point. But I'm quite bothered by this phenomenon of diversity fatigue. It's a term, it's a concept that I find troubling. And what I'm promising here is that I plan to address it, stating my views, knowing they will not be, universally accepted, but let's have a dialogue, and that's the way to go. Bye.